Good. I think we're expecting about 50, right?
Yep.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Very, very good.
Alrighty. Okay, well, it's 11:30. Michael, over to you.
Over to me. Well, yeah, let's get started, everyone. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us this morning. Actually, it looks like we've got about 50 attendees on this course, so I guess we need to look good. We've got a bit of a treat for you today with regards to AI, and in particular what Microsoft are doing around AI. My name is Michael, for those who don't know me. I'm the BDM here at Empower IT. From our side, we've also got Salim, our director. I've got Suban, my colleague account manager, Eva from our sales support team, and Roanna from our marketing team, who helped us put our presentation together. So thank you all. I thought we would start with an acknowledgement to or of country. So Empower IT acknowledges traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises a continuing connection to lands, waters and communities. We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and to elders past and present. Okay, so if we could run quickly through the agenda for today, just so everyone is kind of aware of where we're at and what's happening. I'll pretty much be your host for today. Hope you don't mind. We'll have Salim, our director, talk about AI and why it's important for business. Then we'll have Phil Meyer from Microsoft talk about Copilot. Now, Phil, I'm going to kind of talk you up a bit here. Phil is classed as a bit of royalty with Microsoft. I hope you don't mind me saying that. He's got over 34 years experience in the industry, so we could certainly learn a lot. And it's funny because we've actually, even before we joined, he was already teaching us a couple of things around Copilot as we're joining the lobby, and yeah, very cool. So after we discuss Copilot, there'll be some time for you, our guests, to ask some questions. I know that Phil, as you mentioned, you like to, for our guests to just jump in and ask a question when they do have it. So as per your wish, feel free to ask us whatever questions you've got as we're progressing through the discussion. And we'll answer those as best as we can, I guess. Then after that, if you feel that what we've shown you here will work for your business, we could possibly, maybe run through some possible next steps, and I hope that's okay with everyone. So without further ado, I will now hand you over to Salim. Salim, over to you.
All right, thanks very much, Michael, and welcome, Phil. Appreciate having you. I know you're going on leave next week, so hopefully we can make this as smooth and comfortable as possible for today. Thanks to all our customers, and we've got also some non-customers who've joined us, so welcome to everyone. And I do really hope that you guys will gain some insight into the direction of AI moving forward and what Microsoft is bringing into Office 365, Microsoft 365. And I guess at the end of the day, it's all about, how can we make your life easier, better, more efficient? That's what it comes down to. So just generally speaking about AI in general, I mean, AI is not a new thing. AI used to be called machine learning a couple of decades ago. It's been around for a while. The nature of it is progressed quite quick in the last few years. And the fact that now these tools are available to small to medium businesses, I think that's the big deal. Bring those features, those functionalities down to the level where it can have an impact on everyday, small to medium businesses. So AI has already been there. You probably use AI without knowing it. Your things like your Netflix, your Alexa, your Siri, all those have had AI to an extent, and it's getting better and bigger and better every day. When it comes down to AI development in business, we do see a lot of trends. I mean, Microsoft, for one, spending billions of dollars. They have, and they continue to spend billions of dollars in this area. Everyone in tech is, talking about it. The Australian government has been looking at this for a while, and they're encouraging and promoting AI investments across various aspects of various industries and various verticals, and not only in enterprise and corporate business, but now it's coming into SMEs. So as you can see there's a recent announcement about funneling $17 million into helping SMEs learn how they can use AI. So I guess SMBs in Australia, what's the story with AI there? I think what it comes down to is a lot of people have heard about it. If you haven't heard about it already, it would have been just a matter of time before you do. Just because it's been advertised everywhere, everyone is advertising, something about AI. But really what it comes down to is, how embedded is AI going to be moving forward? A simple example of that would be, okay, if we're recording this webinar, having AI to produce the notes as an example, and not having to watch the entire webinar to find out what the action points are. So you can get a summary, here are the notes, here are the action items, just something as a simple example to kind of illustrate where AI is probably already being used nowadays in various kind of bits and pieces in the SMB environment. I guess, what does AI mean for business? And it's kind of like there's what employees want versus what do owners and business leaders want. And sometimes they're not overlapping. It's no surprise that, users, employees and users, they want to be able to find information quicker. They want to be able to make their life easier. They want to be able to spend less time doing the monotonous, manual, repetitive tasks. I think that's what it comes down to. What do business owners and leaders want? Well, it's no surprise they want their employees and staff to work more efficient. And I guess, there's a lot of talk about, what does this mean for staff in Australia? Is it going to be one of those things where a lot of staff are going to be made redundant? The way that I look at it, for businesses, it's more about how can you, with the existing staff, become more profitable? So how can you take on more clients, do more jobs, more cases, but with the same level of staff that you currently employ? And I think AI is going to be playing a big part of that moving into the future. So we're not here promoting to make people redundant. That's not what it's about. It's really about building more capacity to enable businesses to do more and to bring results and outcomes to their customers quicker and more efficient. So I think that's the outcome that we're hoping for and we're aiming for. And at the end of the day, it's really about information, data, and ensuring that you guys are ready for AI if you want to take it up. So I guess my message for today is more about AI is not a product that we simply turn on. For me, AI adoption is a journey. You need to ensure that your company data is going to be ready for us to enable AI. It's not one of those things where, okay, we'll flick AI on and here we go. It's going to read all our company information. So you might have already dabbled with AI. I mean, I've been using ChatGPT for a while. How do we bring that level of sophistication now into the business across company data? How do we do it so that it's secure, so that AI doesn't look at places it's not supposed to be looking at, doesn't share information it's not supposed to be sharing with other users? And what kind of information do you want it to look at? Is it going to be emails, files, videos, pictures? How do you set all those parameters? Do you just let it loose and let it consume everything within your Office 365 tenancy? Or do you want it to set some parameters and structure it in a way which is what we would recommend, that you would set up, this is the sort of data you should be consuming, this is data you shouldn't be consuming or even looking at in the first place. And I think ultimately adoption of AI is going to be measured by return on investment. These tools are not for free. But at the end of the day, if the business case could be that, well, for example, if we have 3-4 admin staff, and you're growing, rather than adding another 1 or 2 admin staff, if you can use AI and the capabilities that Copilot gives you to then automate some of the things that you're doing. So instead of then hiring another 1 or 2 people, you'd probably be paying for a quarter of an FTE or half an FTE, and then having those AI capabilities that then allows you to deliver the results that you need to your customers. So for me, I do want to be practical. It is all about productivity and return on investment, and it's really important to be able to put the business case forward to the business to say, okay, if we're going down this journey, what is it going to achieve for us in 6 months' time, in 12 months' time? What's the potential that we're going to be looking at? So I hope that's kind of brought the point across that, it is a journey. It's not something that we're just going to turn on and off you go at the end of this and you're going to be 20% more efficient. It doesn't work like that, as I'm sure Phil will be letting us know about all those things. Okay, and so Michael, thanks for that intro for Phil. So we can skip this slide. But Phil, welcome to the webinar, and I'll pass it over to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Liam. You made some really good points there and, in fact, stole some of my thunder. But that's okay, because it's nice to hear the thunder a couple of times in making sure that our attendees who've very generously invested their time today on a Friday, of all things, to spend a bit of time. A couple of things I will highlight in what you've already said. Investment. Yes, Microsoft is making a very significant investment in this. Notably, right here in Australia, a $5 billion US investment, which is the largest investment any IT organisation has made in this country. $5 billion is going towards building additional data centres. So we already have 20. We're going to 29 data centres. Or actually, those are being built in Sydney. I can actually tell you some of the places they're being built because our managing director got on a photo and it said, he's turning the soil at Kemps Creek. He's turning the soil at Seven Hills. So you know exactly where we're building those additional 9 data centres, as well as in Melbourne. So we've got other facilities going in and around Port Melbourne where we've already got the facilities. Now, just to give you an idea of how big one of those data centres is, it's about the size of an aircraft hangar that can store 2 747s side by side. So these are enormous spaces which require enormous amounts of electricity. So it's an interesting debate you see in the media at the moment about nuclear energy, solar energy. All we know is that we need a lot of it to be able to power this capability, which is mainly around AI. So it's a 250% increase in our local capacity. It does mean that all your information is stored within Australia. So if any of you are worried about, is my data going offshore? No, it's not going offshore. Your data is staying right here in good old Australia. So you've got that comfort in knowing that you're meeting data sovereignty requirements. Also part of that investment is 300,000 people being trained. And that is in through the technical and further education institutes. We're giving that money to those organisations to build the skills to support your organisation in the adoption of AI. Now, I've said AI a couple of times, and I just want to also start before getting into the content. The focus of today's conversation is around generative AI. Now, AI as a word has existed since about 1956 at Dartmouth University. They used that word to indicate that computer technology could have human attributes to it. So it's artificial, but human processing. And indeed, it was a year later that the first artificial intelligence program was used by the Department of Defense in the US to do predictions about where missiles might land from their, who they were worried about missiles coming from at that time. Since then, AI has been applied in many, many different ways. In fact, if you go to your local pizza shop today, if it's one of those branded ones, you will find they have cameras over the top monitoring how much pepperoni, how much capsicum, and even pineapple, if you think fruit should be on a pizza, is being placed on that pizza to be able to cook it up, to do quality control. So that's been going for a long time. But generative AI is really what Salim mentioned when we had ChatGPT. Now, that was November 2022, when ChatGPT became available to us as the mass market. It was the most rapidly adopted technology in history, over 100 million users within 3 months. It's now out to 1 billion users. And it's a wonderful, wonderful service. It's brilliant. If you want to write poetry, if you want to do some creative writing, it's fantastic. But do be aware that in that journey by using ChatGPT, that whatever you're putting into ChatGPT becomes available to everybody else. Some of you, do you know how to use the reaction button? Anybody on the call? There's a little hand up the top and there's a little smiley face. You can use that reaction button. Maybe give me a thumbs up if you've heard of the Samsung story, where they use ChatGPT. So use that react button. Oh, that's a hands up, Michael. That's okay. So did you want to ask a question? No? Put your hand down, Michael, and use the react button and the thumbs up. All right. So you have heard of the Samsung story? Yes. For those, doesn't look like a lot of people do. So Samsung, pretty well-known brand. One of their programmers used ChatGPT to try and enhance their programming. And they put their code into ChatGPT and asked it to program it. Well, sadly, one of the nation-state actors out there who does cyber attacks simply asked, how do I hack Samsung? And they got the answers on how to attack them. Another example was in North America recently, where a lawyer was going into a case and asked ChatGPT to give them precedents for this particular case to support their argument. It made it up. The lawyer, the judge, knew it was made up because they knew all the precedent. Said, I don't know where you got that from, mate, but that is not true. So what you will find in using ChatGPT is A, it shares the information with other people out there, and B, it does make up the answers. Look, I had great time with my wife about a year ago when I used ChatGPT to go to Japan, and I asked it, give me, some places to see in Takayama, Japan, over the time we're there. It came back with 4 answers. I got to Japan, I got to the hotel in Takayama, and I asked the lady behind reception, right, I want to go to these 4 places. And she says, yeah, those 3 exist, but that one doesn't exist. I don't know where you got that from, but that just does not exist here. So it does make things up, which can be a bit of fun when you're trying to explain to your wife who was excited about going and seeing some folk village and it didn't actually exist. So be conscious that ChatGPT is a wonderful consumer service, but when you want to do business grade and you want to make sure your data is safe and protected, many of the things Salim alluded to, you really need to think about using Copilot. Yes, it uses the same large language model that ChatGPT uses, but it has all sorts of security, protection, and certification to make sure that it's giving you responsible answers, verified answers, and it's only working with your data and not sharing that with anybody else. So these are critical elements that make the difference between a consumer grade service and a business grade service. So let's get into the worlds of co-pilots. And there are a good number of, we're really in the age where the co-pilots have arrived. And there are many, many co-pilots from Microsoft now. So rather than just being a web experience that many of you, and maybe a thumbs up if you actually have used ChatGPT. So if you hit that little react button, the smiley face, there's one thumbs up. There's Campbell's done one. So lots of you have used it. Interesting. So to that point, about 84% of Australian businesses today have some sort of generative AI tool in their hands. And that's really worrying to me because it's probably something like ChatGPT rather than being something like Copilot protecting their data. And I do know that many of you have probably got Zoomers in your business, Gen Zs, who've come out of university and school, and they've decided to go, hey, I'm going to use this thing at work, boss, to turn a product specification into a marketing brochure. Fantastic. Well, sadly, I was at a manufacturing event only 2 days ago, and a chap came up to me who makes drones for the Australian Defence Force. And sadly, a new hire decided to use one of those consumer-based generative AI solutions to take the detailed, secure specifications of those drones into one of those consumer services and ask for a marketing plan. That's devastating for their business because that highly confidential document is now in the wild. It's in the public domain. So that poor company has got a lot of work to do to remediate and to now modify their engineering to ensure that it's not available to people to understand wavelengths and frequencies and technologies that sit behind that drone. So it's a word of caution to all of you to think about being, if you will, I'll be a bit extreme, parents with some of the people who've come into your business to educate them about the dangers of using consumer-grade generative AI platforms. And as I said, 84% of companies today have that in their space, and I'm pretty confident you've got it happening as well. Look, we do have a lot of Copilots. Take a moment. Across the top, you've got the everyday one, and the free one is Copilot that sits inside Windows. In fact, you can press the Windows C button on your Windows PC today, Windows 11 PC today, and it will come up with a Copilot bar on the right-hand side where you can compose and summarize and do all sorts of stuff to web pages and documents that are on your computer. It sits inside the Edge browser, and it is only functions in a work context in Edge because Edge provides that extra security that Google Chrome, Firefox, DuckDuckGo, Drake do not offer. So I'm going to give you a demonstration shortly, and you'll see that if I try, you wouldn't see these buttons in those other browsers because those other browsers often share back whatever you do back to a parent service. That's not what's secure. That's not secure, sharing your company data back to those other services. So Edge ensures that it stays within your environment. If we move to the next bar, horizontal bar, you can see productivity. We'll spend most of the time today on Copilot for Microsoft 365, but towards the end, I'll also enlighten you to some of the other Copilots which work with Word, Excel, and PowerPoint to bring in data from things like Salesforce, to bring it in from SAP, from Oracle, from ServiceNow, from Zendesk. So maybe you're using those technologies in your business today. There's about 1,200 connectors that now exist to enable you to talk to existing databases, CRM systems, ERP systems, inventory management systems, HR systems. So you can be sitting in, say, Excel and ask it, give me my top 10 performing customers with their revenue stream and gross profitability. And then Excel, you can do all sorts of insights on that data. Further to the right-hand side, you can see some additional products that come out with our Dynamics family. So if you're a field service organization, repairing refrigerators or repairing tractors, a customer service running a call center, you've got that capability. You're running logistics in a supply chain or Microsoft Sales, you can see there's Copilots there. One that was only released on April 1st is that third bar, Copilot for Security. So this is not for everybody, but it's for every business in some way to consider in terms of defending against those nation state actors and those, what we're tracking is about 140 cybercrime organizations that are out there at the moment. So using that technology or with the help of Empower IT, they can do it for you. They can be managing and monitoring the health and the estate of your organization. And then down the bottom, if you're doing any sort of development, we will at the end talk about Copilot Studio because you can use that and it comes actually part of Microsoft 365 Copilot. You can use that to interconnect to those data estates that are not part of that 1,200 connectors that I mentioned a moment ago. So again, with the help of the Empower IT team, with Michael's help, with Celine's help, you can go out and connect to those existing data sets and bring those answers into that same generative AI model. The final one I'll mention is the bottom left, which is the first of our Copilots, GitHub Copilot. And it was our first because 90% of Microsoft's staff are involved in writing code. That's our factory. So to us, it was fundamental to increase the productivity, the creativity, and the quality of work of our developers by using that particular Copilot, the GitHub Copilot. You may have also recently heard, and now available, is what's called Copilot plus PC. So as any of you will go on the journey or maybe are advanced on the journey, you would have heard of a term called LLM, a large language model. It's like a brain that knows how to process information it's given based on a prompt that you give it with supporting data and then give you an answer. Now that's a large language model and it runs in the cloud. One of those would be ChatGPT or GPT, GPT-4 and now GPT-4o. There are a number of other large language models out there that are tailored. Well, what we've been working on is what's called an SLM, a small language model. And there's a series there called under the Phi brand, PHI brand, and they actually now run on your PC. It does need to be a modern PC that supports Copilot plus PC, because in it is built what's called an NPU. You've heard of GPU, you've heard of CPU. Well, now these modern computers have what's called an NPU, a neural processing unit, operating at 40 trillion instructions per second, processing those ins and the outs, including graphical data, video data, so you don't actually need to use the cloud. It can actually run on your PC as a standalone. Now, I've got a little video here I thought I'd play to give you a taste of what comes in. It's an ad that we produced only recently, which just gives you a taste of what we're trying to achieve with Copilot for Microsoft 365. So it's a nice little video that we produced. It's very consistent to a video we had produced on the consumer version of Copilot, which was released at the Super Bowl. So it was played at the Super Bowl. So there's a consumer version of that. And I'd encourage you to also think about using Copilot in your consumer life to do some things. I might even do a demonstration of that in the consumer life. I use it every day. I actually, one of the things you'll find as you move towards using generative AI, you have to break habits. One of the habits you've probably got today is either going to Google or Bing for your searching. And it's about breaking that habit and starting to use Copilot as the place you go to for secure searching, protected searching, and getting definitive answers. So as I mentioned a moment ago, Copilot for Microsoft 365 uses a large language model, which happens to be GPT-4o Omnia, which is the very latest model. It works with your data. So we put that data under the brand name Microsoft Graph. It's a short reference really for all of the data that exists inside your OneDrive for Business, your Teams conversations and chats, your SharePoint, your OneDrive. So all of those locations that exist in the cloud under Microsoft 365 are part of that Microsoft Graph. No, it doesn't see things that are sitting in your Dropbox or your box or on your local PC on a file server. So again, you may need to work with the team from Empower IT to migrate that data from local file servers or from other cloud storage platforms into the Microsoft Graph so that Copilot can see it, secure it, and provide the responsible results to the individuals who are entitled to see that information. It's actually within the applications, and you'll see how when I go through the demonstration, you'll see it inside Word, you'll see it inside Teams, you'll see it inside Excel. And obviously you need an internet connection because it's a massive amount of data that we're working with here. And we have, as I mentioned earlier, that $5 billion investment in Australia alone is giving us the compute technology to deal with it. It's pretty unrealistic to think that you could run this massive scale of information in your workplace on some servers in your business. And particularly if you had to invest for peak, there'd be a lot of times then that investment is not being utilized.
Bill,
This is just giving...
Just to ask a question there, for our customers who haven't heard of Graph before, just wanted to ensure that they know that SharePoint, for example, is included under that.
Thank you. Yes, so SharePoint, the cloud version, so the SharePoint online, not the SharePoint on a local server, those settings. So yeah, and that's important to identify. And Exchange, their data that sits in Exchange Online is part of that story, not Exchange server that might be running on-prem today. So thank you. Yep. Here are some samples of where we've seen quite effective use of the Copilots, summarizing long documents. They might be policy documents in the business. So rather than staff having to go through long PDFs around, employment policies, workplace practice, operational health and safety policy documents, they can simply go through Copilot, point to the PDF and ask questions, and it'll give answers from that very extensive document. You may also be in situations where you're doing legal work with PDF files or other documents that have been brought to you. Rather than having to read them in detail, you can ask those intelligent questions. Remember, intelligent questions, intelligent answers, dumb questions, dumb answers. So you do need a little bit of learning to go through in and around how to ask smart questions. Very commonly, we see people drafting emails. You can draft them long, short. You just press a button, make this long, make this short, make this casual, make it professional. So yeah, talking to somebody the other day, they said, you know, my staff actually see me as a friend now because they've actually been using it to make a more professional and friendly response to their emails than what they've been doing in the past. Definitely creation of images. So with inside the emails, with inside the PowerPoint, you can do that. Doing new skills to help you understand some key points that are out there and getting those answers to specific, often complex questions. So they're just some of the areas that we've seen it. Now this is just giving, I did put a link in the chat. If you're interested, I put that link in there, just click the chat button. And I put a little link in earlier. Some of the data that's represented in this slide comes exactly from that location I've shared in the chat. It's part of what we call the Work Trend Index. We've run 3 in and around generative AI in the last year and a half. The first was more exploratory. The second gave us some insights about some early adopters of the technology. And the most recent one is a much broader and a recognition of the value that Copilot for Microsoft 365 is bringing to help transform people at work. The left-hand side, the greyed out areas, some of the concerns that you as a business leader probably have or have had. You know, lack of innovation, mundane work. Salim, I think you did a good job of talking about mundane work and removing that. And to that end, I think you also mentioned the sorts of people that could benefit. One of the things that's come to my attention in recent times was people have adopted Copilot and put Copilot in their work. It may not be the senior manager who uses this. If they've got an executive assistant, an EA, it might be better to give the technology to them first because they're the ones caught up in that mundane work. They're the ones who are often crafting and looking at various different calendars, trying to find the optimal time. Copilot goes and finds that optimal time for meetings, goes and finds the information they need to be able to create the meeting agenda and the context. So the executive would probably use the Copilot for more like summarizing meetings that they missed out on. Both good applications, but I would also think about the executive assistant as being a great candidate for the early adoption of Copilot for Microsoft 365. And then on the right-hand side, you can see some of the statistics we're getting back, what they've said in terms of increases on productivity. And that 70% they didn't want to give up Copilot. Actually, the specific question there, which was presented to about 31,000 people in the survey, was, would you have a free lunch once a week from work rather than continuing to use Copilot? And 77% said, no, you can keep your free lunch. I'm not giving this up. They're increasing productivity. They're increasing quality of work. They're increasing creativity with such to a point that even a free lunch was not enough to want them to give it back. So there are some very clear, very personal signs that show there's incredible value in this. Now, what I might do here is if you don't mind, I'm going to stop sharing the slides and I'm just going to jump across to my browser screen and share that. Where are we? Here we go. All right. Celine, can you hear that? See that? Yep, thumbs up. Brilliant. So this, I've simply gone to copilot.microsoft.com, as you can see at the top of the screen. Yeah. You've all got free access to this. You don't have to pay for this service. It's available to you for nothing. And if you have got a work account, as you can see, I'm using my work account here, filming@microsoft.com, my email address. I now have 2 buttons. I've got a web button and I've got a work button because it knows I'm a trusted user in a trusted space. But let me do the web one first of all. You don't have to use your work account to get access to this one. And I'm just going to do a simple query. Compare top 3 selling tennis rackets under $300 in a table. Now you use Google or Bing for that, you're going to get a whole list of websites and links and the like. Here, it's really clear. There are the top 3 selling tennis rackets. There's some pictures of them. How do we know and how do we verify that? Notice the citations. There's a little link here that tells you where it got that information from to be able to give me that insight. I use this all the time now for any queries I've got on the web because I know I'm getting factual responses. I'm not dealing with 100 blue lines trying to go page next, trying to find information. If you ask a smart question, and admittedly the prompt was a little long, in a table, under $300, tennis rackets, top selling, those sorts of things are what you've got to think about when you put into the queries, but so much quicker for me to get the answer I need. Now let me show you in a work context. So if I go to work, there's a whole range of different prompts we give you. In fact, down here on the right, you've got view prompts. These are common prompts that I've used in the past, and some of my colleagues have published to a library, which I might think are useful in a work context. You can see it might be ask about a person. Follow some emails to see the progress. Help me write something, inspire me to write something about top priorities or a report. It can be recap meetings, and frankly, actually, this is probably the most used prompt we see at the moment is recap meetings. We're all busy people. We can't make all the meetings that we're invited to. It seems in the modern generation, we don't even respect people's calendars. We just throw calendar items at them, and they've got bookings for 3 meetings at a time. So one of the things you can do is follow a couple of meetings and get a recap. Even if you didn't attend it, if the transcript's available, you can recap a meeting you didn't even attend. Just a simple one I'm going to do here is summarize. So I'm going to summarize. Notice I press the slash button, and now it gives me the ability to summarize a file, a meeting, emails. I'm going to point to the presentation we're using right now. I'm going to ask it to summarize that particular PowerPoint presentation. I don't have to open up the PowerPoint presentation. I don't have to look at the agenda. I can just say summarize. It's now going through that, looking at all the different meeting notes, and it's giving me a really nice summary. The agenda, introduction to AI, Copilot, Q&A session, elements that I'm going to talk to that I haven't even got to yet around security and compliance, demonstration that we're doing at the moment, and the free phrase approach that we're going to get into in terms of you doing the journey. So it's right. You don't have to open up the whole PowerPoint and laboriously work through all the meeting notes. There's a really nice summary. Now,
Phil,
I'm just going to stop sharing.
Sorry, Phil, just a quick
Yes.
question from Melanie there. I think she was interested in knowing in regards to your last the last demo on when you were searching for rackets. She's asking whether your search was based on Bing or Google.
Our search is based on Bing, not Google. And because we have citations and verifications in the Bing service actually does have people who check websites that it finds. It's still respectful of SEO, so search engine optimization. So if you want to have your website higher up in that result set, then you still use all the techniques of SEO, but do gear those towards using the Bing as the search engine because that's the platform in the web that it's using, not Google. But let me share my screen again because I've just launched up a demonstration environment here, as you can see, which is now to show you, and I'm not using my work environment. I've got a demonstration environment, so I've switched to a little virtual machine to be able to do that, just in case something comes up that shouldn't come up. So we're going to start with Teams. As you know, Teams has got a whiteboarding function within it. So here we have a number of people, Daniela, Serena, Charlotte, and Jessica, and we're working together on a brainstorming activity. So if I hit the little Copilot button on the left-hand side, and just an interesting point here, if I may, we did find in our early adopter program, something like 30% of people were reluctant to press that button. They thought that it was going to become Skynet, the Terminator, it was going to take over their machines. And that was direct feedback we got from some of the people. So that changing of habits is something we need to be conscious of, that not everybody's willing to change the way they do things to be able to click on a little ribbon button and do this sort of thing. So in this case, I'm running this meeting and we're working on an activity, and it's in inexpensive ways to optimize website for organic reach without any social media. So it goes out to the large language model. This is staying within our business in the Copilot world, stays in our service battery, but it's obviously aware of various things in and around organic reach and social media. And it's come back with 5 post-it notes. I think we need more for our conversation today. So I'm just going to hit generate more. So within Copilot, it's now going linked into our whiteboarding capabilities in Teams and generated more. So I'm going to insert those now on the whiteboard. Well, they look pretty good. Focus on SEO, test SEO techniques, prioritize keywords. Well, I think I'd like a little bit more on what that means. So can you suggest for me some other keywords and areas in around prioritizing keywords? Right, so there's some additional ones. Let's insert those as well. Now, we as a group, Daniela, Charlotte, myself, Jessica, and Serena, we can play around with those tickets. We can carry out our conversation in and around and using Teams. But it's inspired us. You know how long it takes in a whiteboarding session to get those little post-it notes up, the first ones up. Here we have 15 of them generated just like that. So easily for us to then work, manipulate, and enhance. Let's go on to, say, something like Word. So now I'm in Word, and I'm going to draft something. I'm working on a project proposal, and that project proposal is actually based on an existing document. So I'm going to look at the construction plan, which is quite a detailed document, a construction plan, and I want to create a proposal out of that construction plan. So I press the generate button. Now going and looking at the details behind that particular document. See, it's nicely formatting headers, it's putting in subheaders, it's putting in that bolding, it's bringing in the key data items in the concept of a proposal from that detailed engineering specification. I'm going to keep that. But I'm going to look back now, and looking at the project scope, I think I'd like to have a little bit more data. So I'm just going to write a few words about our building information management system, our laser scanning and robotic solutions. And then I'm going, well, actually, I know in the engineering document there's a little bit more than that. So why don't you inspire me? Write more information for me using the Inspire Me button there. It's now looking back into that document, expanding out the information on laser scanning, expanding out about the robotic station, total station capabilities, and so you can keep that. So while the proposal is a lot shorter than the business plan, it goes back if you want more and to inspire you to create more detail within that proposal. How am I going for time, Salim? I'm just conscious that as to whether I go and show Excel now and get started in showing something here like this, where it's going to do some automatic formatting capabilities for me. So I've just put in there that I want to have those added, that particular field. I'm now going to say mark yellow in gross amounts over 500,000. Now, some of you are probably smart enough to use Excel and know how to use conditional format, but maybe you're not. Here it's gone and done it for me. I can type in a whole lot of things here. What about getting insights? There's a lot of data in this spreadsheet, lots and lots of data, thousands of rows. It takes a lot for me to be able to get the insights and the information, but let it go and look at the information. So it's now getting insights from all that data, you know, high performing, gross sales. Now I'd like to add all those insights to a new chart. So various different insights have been gleaned from this vast amount of data. It's now creating a new tab, and it's putting all those gross sales by date, particular customers are notably high sales, sales price by date by country, net sales by customer. These sorts of graphs have automatically been generated for me.
Bill, what is it? Just a question. What does it mean for BI? And traditionally, where customers have asked for, BI capabilities, and I've had to engage with BI consultants and what have you. So, what does this mean now moving forward from a graphing BI perspective?
Look, I think there's still a role for somebody who's a specialist in BI to be involved. And I still absolutely think there's a role for Power BI and the Copilot for Power BI to give a dashboard to a senior executive. Because I can't see a senior executive necessarily diving into a spreadsheet and clicking all those buttons. But they will go to a Power BI dashboard where they click a couple of buttons to give them the insights they need. So I think there's still a role for somebody to kind of present what I've got here and the final output with some parameters around it, which is exactly where Power BI comes. Its real value is when you expose that to senior executives in a dashboard model and give them the ability to change the look of that from a pie into a donut, into a bar, or to be able to change top and take some of the extraneous data from those models and give it back. But they probably don't want to go into the depth of detail that would be on sheet 1 in this demonstration. The last one I'll just quickly show you is PowerPoint. I'm just going to go here and get started in PowerPoint. I'm going to ask it to transform a file. So here I've got an existing document which is called Intelligence Designed to Amplify. And it's now going to go and look at that particular file, that Word document. It's going to look at all the content. It's going to look at the structure of that file. It's going to apply our business template to this file, because you may have a business template. And it's now created a 12-slide PowerPoint. If I wanted to make that 5 slides, I could just put in there, make it 5 slides. If I want to make it more slides, and it's also brought in speaker notes. So every single slide has got a speaker notes, and in that speaker notes is also a reference point to where it got those speaking notes from, with reference to the original document, the particular paragraph, page, etc. So I might stop at that point and go back to our deck if it's all right, Salim, Michael.
Yep.
Did that help?
Well, those were great examples, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I guess it also showed that it's built within the app. You're not using, a browser and copying files into a browser line or attaching from a browser to it. It's actually already within the app. It's got the context of the app. Now we've got about 15 minutes left. I would quickly play this video. So as I mentioned earlier, Teams is one of the most popular applications. That function of follow me and recap and asking questions during meetings and after meetings is incredibly popular. Now, I've only got a few minutes left really, but quite a bit to get through. So I'm going to basically try and speak at a high level about these 3 steps. The security foundation, which we've in large covered to some point about the importance of security, AI and culture. These are some common questions that we do here. How do I make sure my data is secure? How do I audit the usage? It goes back to some of the points I made earlier. All your data is stored in the very secured Microsoft data centers right here in Australia. And by using the capabilities that are inside your Microsoft 365 investment today around security, compliance, purview, privacy, responsible AI, we can ensure that only the right people have got access to the right information. And by way of an example of where somebody has adopted Copilot but not fastened the seatbelts, I have an example right here in Sydney where a private school implemented this for their teaching staff, administrative staff and students, and they felt good because everything was now safe within their school. But sadly, they didn't put the controls in such to the point where a student was able to ask, give me the salaries of the teaching staff. So this is indeed where, again, working with the Empower IT team, they can use the technology and that fine investment you've made in Microsoft 365 to put in compliance and governance and identity to say which documents are to be seen by which groups. Clearly, those documents should have only been seen by the HR department in the private school, and other documents should be seen by the teaching staff. So it's a bit like, as I say, a motor car and not activating the seatbelt or the collision detection systems or the airbags. So please do work with the team here. So, protecting the LLMs, user tenant focusing, setting up data protection, all these capabilities are inherited, but they're only inherited if they exist. And I appreciate that many of you who very well invested in Microsoft 365 Business Premium, E305, may not have worked with the team at Empower IT to activate some of that security today. And this is just another short little video that shows what we're talking about.
Is it taking a little while for everyone?
Thumbs up. They got it. Excellent. All right. Oh, hang on. Playing it again. No, I don't want to do that. So as I said, a lot of these capabilities are inside the investment you've already made in E3 Business Premium. So it is about working with the team here to apply.
Phil, I'm just on that. I didn't actually see the video. Didn't play for me at all. Yeah.
All right.
So I'm not sure if the thumbs up meant that it's taking a while for it to load or not. So I'm not sure what to do with that.
Well, I can put a link to that because it actually sits in YouTube. I can give everybody a link at the end while the Q&A is going.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So really it's talking about, the video did talk about this security and compliance element that, things like activating there you go. Fiona saw it. Worked for me. Campbell got it. Brilliant. So, all right. We'll have to upgrade your bandwidth, Michael.
Thank you for the feedback. There we go.
All right. So that's all good. And this is, again, the video did amplify some of these points as well. It's your data. It's not our data. It's all protected within that comprehensive space. Moving on to the second one, AI at work. There are other elements, as I mentioned earlier, Microsoft Copilot for sales and for service. So that sits there connecting into Salesforce, Dynamics CRM Sales, HubSpot, a bunch of different CRMs, bunch of different ERP systems. I believe Xero is also adding it. MYOB is adding Copilot to theirs. It already exists in Dynamics, Oracle, and other products. The Copilot has various different roles that it can provide, thinking about a more persona-based approach, whether it's sales to help them close deals, customer service to resolve issues, looking across the wealth of information a customer service rep has to deal with. It goes across that wealth of information that they're exposed to give them quick answers. The data and AI professional who's looking to, as we talked about, the kind of Power BI versus Excel with Copilot. This is an area, and again, maybe not ready, you're not all ready for this. I'm talking about it only because I am finding in my conversations with people, more and more of you are already on the Copilot journey. You've done the Microsoft 365 Copilot. What's next? This is the next. This is that connecting to your existing data, those ERP, CRM systems, your own custom solutions. And there's some wonderful capabilities. I'm not going to go through the video today because we are short on time. But that's a wonderful little video that shows a connection to a HR policy system, which contains expense data. And it's then a user can basically use generative AI inside email to find out how much they've got available expense budget for the year. And as I say, it's part of Microsoft 365 Copilot. Talked about some of this earlier, so I push right on so we can get to Q&A. Last one is this cultural shift. There is a fair bit of work that needs to be done on who should get first. Again, the Empower IT team have access to an assessment tool. They have done implementation, so they're probably best equipped to have a conversation with you about who the right employees are to run quickly. And that three-phased approach, the ready assessment to find out who, adoption, a very important part in terms of finding those champions, those early adopters in your business. I do not commend you to think about rolling out to everybody like that private school I mentioned earlier. Please do it in a phased approach. You think as a Microsoft guy who's looking at the end of fiscal year, go buy everybody. No, I caution you, please just buy a few to get started, learn how it works, work with the Empower IT people to nurture your prompting to get the most out of those prompts, and then move forward to the department, to the organization, and potentially across the whole lot. We do offer a dashboard, which you can use. It's in public preview to see the performance of the users, the applications that are working well. And we do make that available. And that's a monthly figures for each of those, $44 per month, which is actually charged as an annual fee. Why is it an annual fee now? Because it actually costs us about $150 in electricity to actually index your Microsoft data. There's a huge amount of electricity when you turn this on that we have to go and pay the electricity bill for. So we've had to make it an annual fee, really just to cover the economics associated with the power consumption in that. I won't play this video, but basically it's pretty cool where you can now talk to the computer because we're using GPT-4o. It's a really cool video, and I might put the link to that in the chat as we go to Q&A. Over to you, Salim, Michael, to lead us through the Q&A.
Okay. Thank you, Phil. I know. I was actually very interested in seeing the how it worked within Bing from your work mode to personal mode. That was really interesting. I know I'll probably have a play around with it straight after this. Now we've got, I guess, some time for some questions and answers. If anyone wants to jump in and ask any questions, feel free.
Come off mute if you feel that's easier.
Yeah, by all means. And by the way, we'll be sending a recording of this to everyone that's attended, so you'll see the videos within those as well that we did miss. You can see that question there from David, Phil.
Development of a dashboard using Power BI. Absolutely, it's worth having a look at what you can do with Copilot, David. Absolutely. No, Dion, it's not hard to integrate. HubSpot's already been done. I believe Xero is actually doing that work for you. So have a chat to Xero and see how they're going on integrating it so you don't have to go and do the work. And HubSpot's already done. So HubSpot has already got a Copilot added. Well, the free version, the Copilot, is really just a browser that gives you the ability to do quite a bit, but it's not as fully capable, I think, as what you get by paying that amount of money. And maybe I'll go back a slide, which gives you that table of what's in the $44 a month investment. So your free version is absolutely giving you some commercial data protection and grounding, which makes sure that it's responsible AI. But you're missing out on the enterprise-grade data protection. Remember, we talked about your organization, within your organization, making sure HR only sees HR, sales only sees sales, senior management only sees senior management. So that enterprise-grade data protection only comes with the $44 product. So you want to create those service boundaries within your organization. The graph grounding, it's not within the apps. So that ability that I showed with Inside Word to generate a document from Word. to be in PowerPoint and take a Word document and generate it in PowerPoint. That smoothness, that fluidity of being able to do the work comes through that investment as well. You don't get Copilot Studio in the free version, which is the ability to connect to other data sources. And then we do offer these other versions, which can talk to SAR. So we've built them to connect into various different CRM systems and ticketing systems like Zendesk and ServiceNow, and you can add that onto the environment as well. And we've done that work for you. Practical application for Copilot for sales is a question. Absolutely. So we use that in our business when we're having conversations with somebody in a Teams conversation. It's actually taking transcripts from those conversations we're having with a client and putting them into our dynamic CRM platform. So it can also do the same with Salesforce. So if you're having a conversation, that history is maintained, such that when somebody else might have a conversation with that same client, that history of conversation is available for your other staff members to see and get sentiment in terms of where you're standing with the customer. It also gives you insights to where that customer sits in the sales cycle and their performance data, if that's in your CRM, in terms of their sales history, revenue, products that they're looking at from your organization. So those sorts of integrations come into it to just really enhance the whole sales motion and accuracy of information in that. Yes, Copilot for Security is an add-on, but you only add on that for those individuals in your business who have got a responsibility around security. So you don't buy it for every user. You look for your security operations center, your security administrator, and they acquire it. And it's not on a pure user basis. It's actually based on a consumption model. So based on the number of queries they make, the amount of data they ingest from the various different either Microsoft tools, which happen to be free if you use Microsoft Security, which is, by the way, the best security technologies on the planet now. And I say that with full confidence, knowing that I'm backed by Gartner, IDC, Forrester, AAA, MITRE. I'll stop there. But they actually now classify all the Microsoft technologies for XDR, SIEM, email protection as the best in the planet. And so if you use our Security Copilot on that, it doesn't cost you as much as if you put CrowdStrike or Sophos or Trend or Mailguard or Mimecast or one of those thousands of other security vendors that are out there. And so yes?
Sorry, Phil. Being wary that some people might be joining from their phones. We've had a couple of questions just around licensing.
Yes.
Just the minimum number of licenses, and can you mix them up, and how does that work?
So it depends on the license type there. Copilot for Microsoft 365 is assigned to a specific user. So I don't know if you do the admin for your clients, Salim, some of our partners do. You'd basically go and acquire a number of licenses for Copilot for Microsoft 365, and you'd assign it to the individuals, and then it will take a few days to show up for them because it's actually going and doing that indexing of their data in the Microsoft Graph. And then when it's available, the little icons start to appear inside Word, Excel, Teams, so they can go and do those amazing functions for productivity and creativity, quality of work. So Dion's mentioned that maybe you're too small to have a security center. So for us, it would be Empower IT. And I'm sure that Michael and the team are already considering how they use our SIEM technology, which is Microsoft Sentinel, and it can be run in a multi-tenant, multi-customer environment. So they can actually acquire our Sentinel technology and secure not just you, Dion, and your business, but all of the different businesses that might enroll to having Empower IT manage their security footprint, the security of their organization, and then they can also use the Copilot for Security on top of that to give them the insights as well as remediation that might be necessary across that platform. Leveraging generative AI, which is just so simple.
Got a question from Luke, just in regards to Copilot for Sales. What sort of functionality or practical examples they can get out of that?
I think I got that one earlier, Luke, didn't I? Where I talked about the integration, storing the transcripts, the conversations. Yep, thumbs up. And so it basically transfers the data that you might have in a Teams conversation with a client back into the storage repositories of Salesforce or Dynamic CRM Sales or HubSpot, so that anybody else in the sales cycle who's engaging with that client has got visibility to that as well. It becomes part of the query inside the Salesforce or the Microsoft Dynamics environment. You can also use it with inside Excel to say, tell me the status of my top five customers. What's the deal situation? I'm sure that Salesforce has got a similar thing as dynamic CRM sales, which is kind of those life cycle stages, sales cycles. Who are my customers at stage 3? Who are my customers at stage 4? What are the issues of my customers, top 5 customers at stage 2, and what are they stuck on? So you can get those sorts of responses back and then turn that into a compelling PowerPoint presentation to go and move them from stage 2 to stage 3. So it's really trying to accelerate that sales cycle and having a full visibility to what's in those sales stages that you have with your clients.
Awesome.
Just got one other question as well from David, just regarding the HubSpot, and does Copilot help identify those contacts close to purchasing?
Yep. So HubSpot, I know, has already got an integration to Copilot because I've had that question before. We investigated and they've done it. And I believe Xero is working on it. Although Xero has also has a little bit of emotional problem with that. They've created their own product called Jazz, Just Ask Xero. And so they're trying to kind of go, oh, we're not sure we'd like to have this Microsoft and Xero thing working together. So if we can't convince them to work in the Copilot world, it might be an opportunity for Empower IT to use the Copilot to connect. Now, the Jazz technology is really just asking Xero. It doesn't give you the ability to have that integration to Excel, where you might want to do graphical representation Excel, or to ask queries inside something like Teams. As we're having a conversation, what's my current status with this client? What are the products I've proposed? What are the alternatives to the products I've proposed? You know, it means kind of alt-tabbing between teams to their Jazz product and then jumping back again, which can be a little cumbersome. We'd really like them to embrace the idea of using Copilot, but I do know that some people have used Copilot Studio to create that integration. Yes, it is. So we have a Power Automate Copilot as well. So it's part of Power Platform, actually. So you know the Power Platform has the Power Automate, the Power Flow, PVA. So PVA, Power Virtual Agent, is actually rebranded now as Copilot Studio. So we extended Power Virtual Agent to include that capability of connectedness and conversation. So it was really that Power Platform. But in Power Platform, as the development environment, Power Automate, Power Flow, Power Pages, you've now got a Copilot to help you in the development cycle. Development, what is the case for Dynamics 365 CRM? Similar to the example I gave around Salesforce. So you're in that sales cycle. I use it every day. I'm having a conversation with a client. They're in our CRM. That conversation is recorded. It's transposed into Dynamics CRM. I can also use it to look at who are my top performing customers, bring the data out of the CRM, give me insights to that sales stage, and that's the reference I made about stages, is very much a Dynamics 365 CRM module if you use that yourself today, as it looks like you do. And you do have that today, Luke. So that's exactly what Copilot Studio does for you today, to integrate with third-party apps. So again, maybe I'll go back to the slide that talks about Copilot Studio. I knew it would be a popular one. It's becoming more popular. So with Copilot Studio, which is part of your Microsoft subscription to Copilot for Microsoft 365, you can connect to CRM systems, ERP, financial systems. We've already got 1,200 connectors available. You can then use it to connect to platforms we don't have connectors to today. So you can incorporate business processes into the CRM. So it might be HR policies, compliance data, inventory data, manufacturing data, workflow data that you need to connect to in those structured data sets. So then you can use Copilot Studio. And as soon as you've used Copilot Studio, all the little Copilots that sit inside Word, Excel, Teams, are immediately aware of that. So it's got the awareness that when you say, tell me about my top 5 customers in Word, it knows to use that Copilot Studio connector to go into the CRM or to go to whatever data set that you've connected to and bring that and augment, extend that conversation. We also have a standalone version down the bottom, as you can see, which you can then expose to your customers. So if you want your customers through a web interface or a mobile phone interface to be able to have that interface and connectedness with your organization, it's a very low code development environment. Again, maybe the Empower IT people are the ones you bring on board to help you do that work, to then have that end customer interaction. Now, it is a separate standalone product when you expose to customers, and it's based on a consumption model for your customers. 25,000 messages, I think, is your entry point, and then it's the next you buy some under the batch 25,000 messages.
We're just wary of time. If we can just...
Sorry, just one, I think we just missed one quick question from Paul as well. What's the use case for Copilot in D365 CRM? I think that's the last one.
You've got an RPA question there, that remote process automation. And that's really, again, where we've got the Power Automate. So, Paul, that's similar to the answer to the question around Power Automate, which is an RPA product. So it's a very, very popular RPA product, Power Platform incorporating Power Automate, Power Forms, Power Pages to do low-code rapid development of applications. And indeed, this Copilot Studio, formerly known as, the band known previously as Power Virtual Agent, is Copilot Studio, but with a lot of enhancements to do with additional connectors and experiences that are more around generative AI. So, yep, lots of good integrations there. So it doesn't really replace our RPA, and I think, Paul, you're talking about Power Platform, Power Automate. No, absolutely, that stays, because not everything in the world of Power Platform is generative AI. There are a lot of processes that you want in an RPA world, which are, rather than manual activate, you want automated activation. So the magic of automated activation comes more from the Power Platform, where a trigger occurs in a database, a certain email arrives, and a certain process needs to be fired up. That's not generative AI. That's RPA. But in the development of those processes, you've now got a Copilot to assist you in doing that.
Thanks, Paul. All righty. So okay. I guess that takes us to the end of the presentation. Just wary of time. Thanks for all the questions that came through. Where to from here, I guess. That's what it comes down to. So I think hopefully you guys have all got a taste of, what Copilot can do. If you haven't already started using it, you can use the free version. But really the discussion is how can you bring Copilot benefits to the organization across your 365 tenancy, across your 365 apps, and then connecting into your custom apps. So here in Power IT, we're using the Microsoft Readiness Assessment, which is more or less a hybrid of, for smaller customers, it's a questionnaire. For larger customers, there is an automated or a tool that then assesses your tenancy and spits out recommendations. So Microsoft have allowed us to have access to that for organizations that are greater than 30 users, free of charge. For organizations that are smaller than 30 users that are looking at Copilot, then that would be a manual assessment following the Microsoft template that we would go through with you guys through. And that talks about things like, how's your data currently structured? Do you have to enable things like data classifications, data loss prevention or protection? Who's got access to what data, and who do you want to then expose that data to within your organization? So it is a process, it is a journey. Sure, you can get benefits from day one as an individual, but then unlocking that capability for company data, that's really the ultimate goal that I think we need to be working for. So the other thing I'd like to mention is we're being realistic here. We're not going to become Copilot specialists at Empower IT. So what we're doing is we actually have partnered up with some companies who that's the only thing that they do, which is, looking at Copilot Studios, especially when it comes to writing connectors for your custom applications. So we're not going to pretend that we're experts overnight. No, we're not. But we do have access and connection to companies who do this sort of thing day in, day out. So where it gets complicated, we'll be just introducing you guys to, if you want to go down that path, introducing you guys to the subject matter experts when it comes down time to things like our Copilot Studio. Alrighty.
Very good. Well, I think that comes to an end. I guess does anyone want to ask any more questions? One final time, or if not, then I would just like to take the this opportunity to thank everyone for attending. Thank you for your valuable time that you took out of your day to listen to us. Thank you, Phil, for your insights. Very, very, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and we look forward to, as Salim mentioned, it is a journey. For us, we're here to assist. We don't want to claim to be experts in the area, and that's why Phil's here. But you can see how powerful Copilot is, and AI in general is, and I guess where it's tricky is once you do turn it on, how do you protect your business? So that's what we're here for.
To that end, Michael, there was a question in the Q&A section from Gwen, and I've put an answer up there. Was about, can I be hacked? And my answer to that was, no security vendor is going to give you 100% guarantee on being hacked, because we're fighting a dynamic war. But I have included in that Q&A a reference to a particular document which gives the assurance that we're on the front line as Microsoft. We're the biggest security vendor in the planet by a factor of 10. We've got more telemetry than anybody else. We actually provide that data to other security vendors because they depend on us now with the insights we have from the vast estate of users. And I'll put it in the chat here if anybody's interested in that report that I shared with Gwen. It's called our Microsoft Digital Defense Report. I'm a bit disappointed it is a year old now. In June, we're supposed to release each year the latest version of that. Okay. But it's wonderful showing the telemetry we're getting, 78 trillion events per day that we witness on the web of attack, and how we've been hardening up against the nation-state actors and the cyber criminals. And we're bringing in things like proactive automated attack vectors. We took down 4 cybercrime organisations like last year in partnership with law enforcement by using our technology back at them. So destroyed their servers. So that's how seriously you take it. Sorry, Michael, to cut across, but I thought that there was one question and you mentioned the word security.
No, thank you. And if you came from, Gwen always asks good questions, actually, like that. Okay. Well, I think, I'd like to thank everyone. If anyone's got anything to add, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you again, and enjoy your weekend.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
See everybody.